Going on YouTube? How are y'all doing? John Matrix here. Hope you're all having yourselves a wonderful day wherever you're at and whenever you're watching this. We're going to be jumping into the SCP universe as per usual, and today we're checking out another video by the Vulcan that has been highly requested by several people amongst the community. SCP-939 with many voices. Object class Keter, Containment Breach Specimen. Links as always down in the description to the original video here made by the Vulcan and to the Vulcan's channel. If you will please do me a favor, click those links. If you enjoy the original video, give it a like. If you're not already subscribed to the Vulcan, please go over there and do so if you enjoy his content. He makes a lot of great content for the SCP universe. And man definitely deserves some love for all of the hard work that he puts into his videos. So please go over there and do so. So yeah, we're just gonna jump into it. Again, SCP-939 with many voices. So let's do it. Let's get into it.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Miller, and
we're already looking like some xenomorph. Looks like some alien queen shit here on the screen.
The SCP we're going to be looking at today is SCP-939. Object class Keter. Special containment procedures. SCP-939-1, 3, 19, 53, 89, 96, 98, 99, and 109 are kept in cell 1163A or 1163.
A lot of them, holy shit.
10 by 10 by 3 meter containment chambers within armed biocontainment area 14. Both cells are environmentally regulated and negatively pressurized, with walls constructed of reinforced concrete. Access to these cells is regulated by an outer decontamination chamber and inner gas-tight steel security doors. Observation windows are constructed of laminated ballistics glass 10 centimeters in thickness, protected by a 100 kilovolt electrified mesh. Humidity is maintained at 100% at a temperature of 16 degrees Celsius. Specimens are monitored at all times via infrared cameras. Level 4 authorization is required to access SCP-939.
So if they're monitored by infrared cameras, I assume they have some kind of form of like camouflage or some kind of way to make them, you know, hard to see, so they gotta like monitor them by heat, I would assume.
Their containment areas or the observation chambers. SCP-939-101 is dismembered and stored in cryogenic preservation tanks 939-101A to 939-101M within Bioresearch Area 12. Access to SCP-939-101 requires authorization by 2 Clearance Level 3 personnel, one of which must be present for all research and testing. The contents of only one 939-101 tank may be accessed at any given time. Core temperature of SCP-939-101 tissues must be monitored while removed from cryogenic preservation. Should core...
So I would assume that this is some kind of creature that, you know, I don't know if it's almost like the, you know, John Carpenter's The Thing kind of a situation where each piece of it removed from the whole acts like an individual. So they have to freeze it to study, but once it starts to thaw out at a certain degree, it starts to be able to like act on its own accord. So then it needs to be refrozen kind of a situation. And yeah, it's saying that they have to be suspended for at least 72 hours before, I guess, being looked at again. Interesting.
Or temperature exceed 10 degrees Celsius, tissues are to be returned to their corresponding tank and all testing suspended for a period of 72 hours. Barring core temperature exceeding 10 degrees Celsius, research of SCP-939-101 tissues may continue, as long as its ramblings and pleas for release may be tolerated. Containment cells should be cleaned bi-weekly. While this takes place, SCP-939 specimens will be transferred to the adjacent cell. During this time, the cell's door and observation window must be inspected for damage and repaired or replaced accordingly. Heavy sedation of all SCP-939 is required before any interaction, including transfer between cells and experimentation, may take place. See Document 939-TE4 for Transfer and Experimentation Protocol. Level C hazmat gear is to be worn by personnel during interactions with SCP-939 specimens, and in any areas which SCP-939 have been known to inhabit.
Interesting. So obviously they give off some kind of contamination that clearly negatively affects, humans. Interesting.
Afterward, standard decontamination procedures are to be observed by all personnel involved to ensure no secondary spread of amnestic agents occurs. Following incident ABCA 14-939-3, all non-D-Class personnel interacting with SCP-939 for any length of time are required to wear 2 waterproof electronic pulse monitors for the duration of such interaction. These pulse monitors will transmit to a wireless monitoring system independent of a facility's main power grid, with at least 1 backup power system on standby. Should both individuals' pulse monitors flatline or otherwise malfunction, the wearer will be presumed dead. Personnel instructed to disregard all the wearer's subsequent vocalizations.
Interesting. So whatever this creature is can mimic people. At least their sounds.
And a breach of containment declared automatically. Security personnel responding to such a breach are likewise required to wear these pulse monitors. Additionally, all live SCP-939 must be implanted with subdermal tracking devices upon capture. Description: SCP-939 are endothermic, pack-based predators which display atrophy of various systems similar to troglodytic organisms.
Interesting.
The skins of SCP-939 are highly permeable to moisture and translucent red, owing to a compound chemically similar to hemoglobin. SCP-939 average 2.2 meters tall, standing upright, and weigh an average of 250 kilograms, though weight is highly variable. Each of their 4 limbs end with 3-fingered claws with a 4th opposable digit, and are covered in setae which considerably augment climbing ability. Their heads are elongated, devoid of even vestigial eyes or eye sockets, and contain no brain casing. The jaws of SCP-939 are lined with red, faintly luminescent, fang-like teeth, similar to those belonging to specimens of the genus Chauliadus, up to 6 centimeters in length, and encircled by heat-sensitive pit organs.
So they're almost like viper snakes. I would assume they hunt by sensing heat.
Eye spots, sensitive to light and dark, run the length of their spined dorsal ridges. These spines may be up to 16 centimeters long and are believed to be sensitive to changes in air pressure and flow. SCP-939 do not possess many vital organ systems. Central and peripheral nervous systems, circulatory system, and digestive tract are...
It has no... does not possess any vital organ systems. It doesn't have a central nervous system, circulatory system, or digestive system. So it doesn't need to eat to survive, seemingly. And a lack of a nervous system would obviously seem to indicate that it doesn't feel any kind of pain. But how does it then function as, an individual creature? I guess, maybe the idea of, again, it being able to... Maybe this creature is the sum of a lot of different little parts put together, and somehow they're able to act independently. But, when put together, they form this one kind of creature that somehow is able to... I don't know. I'm just trying to think of how that would work. How does a creature without any kind of nervous system work? And without any kind of digestive system, how does it sustain itself? Other than, I guess, photosynthesis? Would be the only thing I can think of, unless there's some other kind of, it absorbs some other kind of like creates, it can like take in oxygen or CO2 or whatever as its primary form of, energy. But I don't know. You would think for something that seems to be like a predatory creature that it would have a greater metabolism and greater needs than you would think that would be able to provide it, right? I don't know.
Are all absent. SCP-939's respiratory system is atrophied and serves no apparent purpose beyond spreading AMN C227. SCP-939 have no apparent physiological need to feed, nor any way to digest consumed tissue. Ingested material typically accumulates in the respiratory system of SCP-939 and is regurgitated once the amount is sufficient to markedly inhibit its function. Despite the absence of many vital organ systems, SCP-939 are capable of bearing live young.
This is a
See
weird
Addendum
creature.
1016, 1991. SCP-939's primary method of luring prey is the imitation of human speech in the voices of prior victims. Though imitation of other
pretty
species
fucking
and
creepy.
active nocturnal hunts have been documented, SCP-939 vocalizations often imply significant distress. Whether SCP-939 understand their vocalizations or are repeating previously heard phrases is the subject of ongoing study. How SCP-939 acquire voices is not currently understood.
That's creepy. Specimens I'm reading ahead. I usually tend to be reading ahead than when he's talking a little bit. The habit. I don't know. When I see text, I just, move ahead. But specimens been documented to imitate victims despite never hearing the victim speak. How does that happen? These are some very fascinating creatures. No digestive system, no nervous system, no circulatory system. Its respiratory system seems to not function, other than, I guess, to maybe spread some kind of something. It says, I don't know, okay, yeah, it's able to bear life. I don't know. I guess the text is above, but I guess it's maybe like able to spread some kind of gas or toxin that can inhibit things. Or
I'm looking
here
for
we go.
Ray Finkel.
In a clean pair of shorts. Again, I thank you very much for the subscription. I greatly appreciate it. I don't know how or why I'm getting these alerts when I have it muted. Obviously, the alerts don't show up on screen. Therefore, the audio shouldn't play, but they do. Thank you very much for the sub. Greatly appreciate you. Welcome. I lost my train of thought. But I'm just, these are just fascinating creatures. They give live birth, similar to mammals. They have no digestive systems. They obviously seem predatory, but have no real need to eat. So that would mean that they're just driven by the instinct to kill for whatever reason. That's just what they're seemingly made to do. Fascinating. And then the idea that they can imitate sounds from victims that they've never seen, heard, or potentially been in contact with. That indicates some kind of psychic connection, I guess. Somehow they're able to, like, let's say they were to, like, see me and they started imitating some kind of vocalization of one of my family members. So maybe like it seeing me, it has some kind of like able to like psychically connect itself to me and somehow and like scan my thoughts, and then is able to understand somehow, through my memories, what one of my family members would sound like. So then it would, try to imitate one of my family members calling for help or in need of help to get me to come, investigate and then kill me. Interesting. Very, very fascinating creatures. Again, I've said this I don't know how many times in these various SCP stories. This would be a very interesting, like, sci-fi aliens, kind of horror movie.
Specimens have been documented imitating victims despite never hearing the victims speak. Analysis of SCP-939 vocalizations cannot distinguish between SCP-939 and samples of known victims' voices.
So it's a perfect
replica.
The
use of biometric voice recognition security or identification systems at any installation housing SCP-939 is strongly discouraged for this reason. Prey is usually killed with a single bite to the cranium or neck. Bite forces have been measured in excess of 35 megapascals. SCP-939 exhale minute traces of an aerosolized Class C amnestic, designated AMN-C227. AMN-C227 causes temporary anterograde amnesia, inhibiting memory formation for the duration of exposure, plus an average of 30 minutes. It is colorless, odorless, and tasteless, with an estimated ETC50 for inhalation of 0.0015 milligrams per cubed volume of the area exposed.
So I wonder what purpose that would serve for it. Why would it, I guess, I'm assuming this is some kind of creature that developed naturally somewhere and is just, some kind of crazy anomalous creature and this isn't some kind of bioengineered thing, but it could very well be a bioengineered thing of some sort by someone in the SCP universe. Who, God only knows who and what would create something like this, because there's plenty of factions out there that probably could. But anyway, what would the purpose be for it to, have some kind of an amnestic to remove memories, especially 30 minutes worth of memories, other than, I guess, to get victims to forget about it in an attempt to get to a specified prey, maybe? Maybe these things have, specific targets of prey that they want to go after for whatever reason. And if they're stalking a prey and someone else sees them, they erase their memories, so it's like they were never there and they can continue hunting what they were doing without being interrupted and without creating, without being forced to have to kill something else that wasn't their intended prey victim, thus potentially also giving themselves away, kind of a situation. I don't know. Interesting.
In well-ventilated or open-air environments, risk of exposure to ETC-50 is greatly reduced, but not negligible. AMN-C227 is typically undetectable in the bloodstream 60 minutes following cessation of exposure. Reported sensations of disorientation and mild hallucinations immediately following removal from environments saturated with the agent are similar to recreational use of numerous psychoactive substances and easily mistaken as such. Note: March 23, 2005. This report pertains to Morphology Alpha. For information regarding Morphology Beta, see Experiment Log 914, AMTF News 7, After Action Report. Addendum, April 11th, 1982. Due to SCP-939's intense aversion to bright light, it has been deemed a minimal risk of escape. Standard fluorescent hallway lighting is sufficient to deter SCP-939-1 from leaving its darkened cell. The following addendum has been stricken from the document, and we are advised to see Addendum September 20th, 1991. Addendum June 29th, 1987. Preliminary research into AMN-C22.
I saw this coming. Amnestics are one of the big research things that the SCP Foundation is obviously into. That's why they have the Anata Shasha, if I remember correctly. That's why they keep feeding it to get the amnestics from that. Any kind of creature that could give it some kind of amnestic production, of course, they would want to use it to do that. So that doesn't surprise me at all.
27 suggests potential use as a general purpose amnestic. Methods of mass producing the agent as well as possible adverse effects, are being investigated at Biocontainment and Research Site 6. Addendum October 3rd, 1990. AMNC 227 has been approved for use as a Class C amnestic. Projected annual production at Bioresearch Area 12 by SCP-939 respiratory tissue cultures is expected to surpass 3 liters.
Interesting.
And again, that following addendum was stricken from the official document.
So I wonder, how does it create this amnestic? Like, it is part of its like process of killing things. I mean, it doesn't digest anything, and it's just, you know, it was stated that anything it ingests just essentially works to block its respiratory system that doesn't work anyway, other than to create this amnestic, I guess, seemingly. So, like, would its ingestion of things, is that like the start of the process of it creating the amnestic, and then once it's full, it like regurgitates what it doesn't need, you know, after it's created, you know, enough of the amnestic from whatever? I don't know. Interesting.
Addendum, September 20th, 1991. Containment of 9 SCP-939 specimens has been compromised following a Silent Night breach scenario at Biocontainment and Research Site 6. Nearby civilian settlements have been evacuated on the pretense of a coming storm. Recovery teams have been deployed to the area. Addendum, October 16th, 1991. In light of this, all interaction with SCP-939 from September 8th to October 7th in the Northern Hemisphere, or March 6th to April 4th in the Southern Hemisphere, is strictly forbidden.
So they're either they have multiple versions of this, and I'm assuming it's something to do with it, you know, having babies, like during that time in the Northern Hemisphere, and during that time in the Southern Hemisphere. Maybe that's, you know, when it either goes through its mating cycle or its birthing cycle to, you know, create babies or something like that, so then they don't want to interact with them in any kind of way, like whatever else would it be. But it's interesting that it's different in different times of the year in different hemispheres. September 8th to October 7th, so basically that a month of time, going from, you know, the end of summer into the start of fall in the Northern Hemisphere. And I guess that's the same thing in the Southern Hemisphere, right? If I'm not mistaken, because like the seasons are like on the opposite down in the Southern Hemisphere, right? Interesting.
No male specimens of SCP-939 have yet been identified, contain a Class B amnestic. See reproduction of SCP-939. Document number 939.
It says no male specimens have been identified yet, so they're all just female. I guess that would mean they just asexually reproduce, huh?
0.
Which would then mean that any one of them could reproduce. So that could be like an exponential population growth if they were to ever breach containment and I guess potentially get out in the wild.
062. Reproduction of SCP-939. On September 25th, 1992, SCP-939-1 gave birth following a gestation period of roughly 12 months. Litter SCP-939-A contained 6 specimens, numbered SCP-939-A1 to SCP-939-A6. SCP-939-A1, A4, and A5 were male.
It's fascinating me that they said they've never seen males before. I assume that means the females maybe eat them at some point.
While A3 and A6 were female. SCP-939-A2 was stillborn and immediately cannibalized by SCP-939-1. SCP-939-1 made no attempts to interfere with the confiscation of its offspring.
Interesting.
This
So it doesn't seem to care about its offspring at all.
This section of SCP-939-A1, A3, A4, and A5 found them to be morphologically and genotypically indistinguishable from healthy human infants.
What?
The remains of SCP-939-A1 and 939-A3 are kept preserved in biological materials storage units 939.
Is this some kind of was this some kind of experiment on people? What? They're no different than human infants?
026C and 939-026D, respectively, within Bioresearch Area 12. Remains of SCP-939-A4 and SCP-939-A5 were incinerated. SCP-939-A6 will be transferred to for observation as it matures. It will undergo monthly physical examination, supplemented with any additional measures deemed necessary. Document number 939-A6-16. Transfer of Dr. Note: March 16th, 1997. After overhearing numerous conversations between personnel, SCP-939-A6 has come to believe its name is Keter. Given the marked positive effect on its mood, staff are advised to neither encourage nor discourage.
So it's even like developing mentally and physically the same way a human would? His name is Keter. Given the marked positive effect on its mood, staff are advised to neither encourage or discourage this assumption. Both its mental and physical development have remained consistent with human norms.
This assumption, both its mental and physical development have remained consistent with human norms.
So, I'm getting a little confused here for a second. So, did the 939 like the original, did it have offspring that was just human offspring? That's what it sounds like. Morphologically and genotypically indistinguishable from healthy human infants. So it's like, is this just like some kind of mimic creature that like is able to see things and then give birth to things that then mimic whatever species it is? What is going on?
January 9th, 2001. At approximately 2A6-16. Transfer of Dr. Note: March 16th, 1997. After overhearing numerous conversations between personnel, SCP-939-A6 has come to believe its name is Keter. Given the marked positive effect on its mood, staff are advised to neither encourage nor discourage this assumption. Both its mental and physical development have remained consistent with human norms. Document number 939-A6-33. Emergency Medical Log SCP-939-A6. Date: January 9th, 2001. At approximately 2000 hours, SCP-939-A6 began acting increasingly unsettled. When questioned, it reported a sense of malaise. Breathing was observed to be rapid and shallow. SCP-939-A6 was escorted to the medical ward for further examination. Heart rate was measured to be erratic, averaging 190 beats per minute. No further anomalies were observed. SCP-939-A6 was administered a benzodiazepine and returned to containment.
So I wonder... I haven't really paid attention to the specific dates of when it was born to when it is now. But I wonder if this is a situation where, okay, this creature gives off babies. These babies look, act, learn, develop like humans do. So this could be its defense of like creating other versions of itself. It creates babies that mimic whatever species is the dominant species, you know, on the current planet it's on. That's why it didn't care that its young were taken, because it actually wants that to happen. It wants its young to integrate with, you know, the primary species, and then once they hit puberty, they start developing into what the original creature is to hunt and do whatever it's supposed to do.
Probable panic attack. Trigger undetermined. Date January 10th, 2001. At approximately 0430 hours, SCP-939-A6 reported the same symptoms,
So it's
accompanied by a mild headache and aversion to light. Examination returned.
It's starting, yeah. I mean, when you have migraines, sometimes, you know, migraines can cause you to have, you know, light can make it worse. So that could just be something like that. But it was said that the original creature had an aversion to light, and that just, you know, normal fluorescent lights was all it really needed to be contained. So it could simply be that, yeah, once it hits puberty, it starts developing properties of its, you know, what it was originally of the original creature. And so now it's starting to have aversion to light. Its respiratory system and whatnot could be starting to fail and atrophy because it's not needed anymore. I don't know.
Identical results to the previous day. SCP-939-A6 instructed to rest, administered a sedative, and returned to containment. Date January 24th, 2001. Symptoms outlined above persisted for 2 weeks before intensifying. SCP-939-A6 destroyed the lighting fixture in its enclosure and was found to have assumed the fetal position underneath its bed at 0140 hours. A6 staunchly resisted leaving its chamber, requiring it to be carried to area medical ward. It complained of a severe headache and intense aversion to light, hypersensitivity to auditory stimuli, intense chest and abdominal pain, and uncomfortable warmth, commenting that it hurt too much to cry. A6's core body temperature measured to be 41.2 degrees Celsius. Technicians
unable to
were
locate
unable to locate a pulse.
Yeah, its respiratory system is it's going through some kind of mutative change or whatever, and what its original like form was.
MRI indicated that
that's my theory anyway.
A reinforced concrete containment cell was immediately prepared for SCP-939-A6. The cell's lighting was dimmed and a large basin full of water provided at its request. Date January 26, 2001. SCP-939-A6 immersed itself in the provided water basin and remained inactive for a period of approximately 41 hours, at which point it began violently tearing at its skin. It displayed a considerable amount of distress upon realizing its skin was sloughing off.
And a clean pair of shorts. Thank you for that sub, whoever you are.
But appeared unable to stop. At 22:36 hours, Dr. reported SCP-939-A6's head detached itself.
Jesus.
By 22:40 hours, it appeared morphologically identical to, albeit much smaller, than SCP-939-1.
So that's fascinating. Whatever this creature is, it like has developed a way essentially to mimic other creatures, and probably figures out whatever the like apex creature is of whatever world or planet it's on or whatever, and is able to create offspring that mimic them. Would probably do it close by to whatever creatures it's trying to mimic, in the hopes that it will find them, pick them up, and want to take care of them, raise them, etc. And then eventually, once they hit puberty, they morph back on wherever this creature is, and then probably hunt, kill, do whatever they're supposed to do. Like that's the thing that I'm still wondering. Like, what is the purpose of it? Like, obviously, it's a pretty ingenious evolutionary like thing to potentially survive by, you know, being able to create offspring that could mimic the forms of other things, down like literally perfect mimics. Like it's indistinguishable from other human offspring, from other infants. So like literally perfect copies. And then but like yeah, the question is like, what is then the end game? Because they don't need to eat, right? I mean, it could just be a way for it to use other species as a means of guarding its offspring, you know, to raise them itself. That's just how it evolved to survive, by using those mimic traits. But like, it seems like it's a predatory creature, right? It has claws, elongated, you know, claws, sharp teeth. It seems to have heat sensor organs, kind of like you know, vipers. It can has like dorsal fin sensory things to be able to sense wind and wind changes, so it's probably sensitive to that. So it sounds like it's a pretty well evolved predator, but it doesn't need to eat anything. And I mean, it also has no nervous system, so it doesn't feel pain, which again would also be somewhat advantageous as a predator when you're going after something. You know, you don't necessarily feel pain. It's going to be hard to deter it from, you know, doing what it's supposed to do. But it also just doesn't have a nervous system, so how does it even function again? And how would you even kill it, right? Like, if it has no brain to shut off, then how would you even be able to kill it? Again, this could just be like the idea of what a perfect evolutionary predator would be, you know, or someone's idea of that. Anyway, let's continue.
Addendum, February 13th, 2001. SCP-939-A6 has been redesignated to SCP-939-101. It will be transferred to Bioresearch Area 12 for further study. Document number 939-101-77. Audio log 939-101-A, number 13. Begin log 10:16 hours, May 22nd, 2004. Access to Cryogenic Preservation Room 939-101 granted to Dr. Access to CGPT 939-101-A granted. Playing log now.
Excuse me, mister? Why are we here? It's bitterly cold, and we would like to go home now.
We would like to go home now?
Bedtime, and we're very sorry. We didn't mean it. Have you seen our pictures? We like drawing. Daddy hung them on the wall, except for sometimes when the others in white coats took them away. Daddy told us not to draw pictures like those. They made him sad, so we did our best to draw other things. But sometimes we forgot. Sometimes Daddy hid the pictures, or ripped them up. He told us that it wasn't that he didn't like them. He said it was to keep us safe from the mean doctors in the white coats. But then the doctors took Daddy away. They made us get shots and told us to forget about Daddy, but we were scared of needles without Daddy around. We didn't forget Daddy. Daddy forgot us, though. We think it was the doctor's fault. Daddy wouldn't forget about us. Would he? He gave us a fake Daddy and told us it was real Daddy, but we...
So, did they try to, like, give the creatures amnestics or whatever, and they didn't take? Because he said, they made us get shots and told us to forget about Daddy, oh, well, we were scared of needles without Daddy around. We didn't forget Daddy. Daddy forgot us though. So it's like, did they try to give them all amnestics and it didn't work on this creature? Which would kind of make sense being they generate them.
We knew better. The doctors made us get more shots. They kept telling us fake Daddy was real Daddy, but they couldn't fool us. We told them it was wrong to lie, just like Daddy told us. And then they stopped lying. They made us be ourselves, but they gave us paper and pencils and paints and told us we could draw whatever we wanted, so we did. Sometimes we drew Daddy, sometimes we drew what Daddy told us not to draw. And the doctors took all our pictures. Sometimes the doctors in white coats and the people with the black shirts with a lot of pockets and helmets that carried bent windows and what did Daddy call them? I forgot. They walked with us down the hall for our checkups. We didn't like those. Sometimes we had to lay in a dark place and be really, really still. Daddy would tell stories. We didn't always understand them, but we liked them anyway. There were stories about places that didn't have ceilings, where up was forever and the ground wasn't white. We think it's silly. Everywhere has ceilings.
Interesting.
Doesn't it? After the doctors took Daddy away, we didn't get to hear stories anymore. And we didn't feel good. The doctors made us get loads of checkups, and we think they got scared, so we got scared too. We had a really bad headache, and the lights bothered us, and so did noises. We wanted to find lots of cool water away from the bright lights until our headache went away. They let us be in the dark and gave us lots of water, but the water made us itch all over. When we scratched, sometimes our skin came off. We were so scared. We kept asking for Daddy, but he never showed up. Eventually, we didn't have any skin left, but it was okay because we didn't need it anymore. We stopped itching after that. The lights stopped bothering us so much and the headache went away after our old head came off. Lights still bother us, but not as much as they did. We don't see right anymore. We got so hungry. It was bad, but we ate our old skin and our old head. It tasted good,
Jesus.
but it was still bad. We were still hungry after that and asked for food. They gave us food, even our favorites, but none of it tasted right to us. All that tasted good was one piece of meat. We asked for more of that. They locked 2 people in the dark with us. We asked them not to, but they didn't listen to us. We weren't hungry for a while after that. But we're hungry now. We're very sorry. We know lying is wrong. We didn't mean it.
Interesting. So they have an instinctual, like, hunger, and they do eat things to satisfy that hunger, even though they don't need to eat. This is strange.
Addendum. February 20th, 1992. Effective immediately, use of AMNC-227 as an amnestic is suspended indefinitely. Consult Incident Report AMNC-227-939 for further information. This is Incident AMN C-227-939. SCP involved, SCP-939.
Oh no, is the amnestic part of its reproduction stuff? Were they using, like, this amnestic on people, and then it causes them to, like, mutate into these things too?
Description. On January 30th, 1992, a statistical rate of missing persons reports more than times the national average was noted amongst civilians administered AMN C-227 following the capture of SCP on November 28th, 1990, 2 kilometers northwest of. Pending further investigation, use of AMN C-227 was suspended. On January 31st, 1992, field agents were dispatched to the area to investigate. Through collaboration with local law enforcement, agent was able to secure an interview with James. Approximately 7 months prior to the arrival of field agents, James reported 3 individuals missing under suspicious circumstances. All had been previously administered AMN C-22-7.
Document number 939-73. James. Interview number 1. Interviewed, James. Interviewer, Agent something. Forward. This interview is being conducted by myself, Agent, in order to confirm or refute the possibility of a link between the disappearances of and what reported by James on the 5th of June, 1991, and prior administration of AMN C-22-7 to all 4 named individuals on the 28th of November, 1990. Thank you for taking the time to meet with me, Mr. To begin, I'd like you to relate the events of June 5th in as much detail as you can.
Okay. We called some friends, and we decided to go for a hike. Just sort of buck about in the woods, you know. It was a nice enough day out, and we had nothing better to do. I remember nothing seemed strange until I commented on a feeling of deja vu. Gave me a funny look, and she said she felt it too. We all did. Must have been the only smart one. He got creeped out and went home. The rest of us were curious and decided to look into it. I mean, when have you ever heard of 5 people all feeling deja vu at the same time?
Can't say I ever have. Please continue.
It got even stranger. The feeling of familiarity got stronger and stronger as we neared.
Interesting. Maybe it's a situation where anyone who was injected with that amnestic has a compulsion to go find the original creature that the amnestic was based off of. Maybe that's what the amnestic thing is. Like if it's hunting something and it gets away, it injects them with, you know, potentially whatever that amnestic is. They forget about it, but then they later have a compulsion to go find it. Based off of like deja vu things or whatever.
Yeah, huge cave nearby. I don't think any of us had ever been inside before. We only had one flashlight, and it was dumb as hell in hindsight.
No shit.
But we went inside. The feeling kept getting stronger the further in we went. I know I keep calling it deja vu, but that's not the right way to put it. It was more of a general feeling of familiarity. Not like this had happened before, but something about it was just familiar. And nobody could put their finger on what. The deeper we went, the more familiar it felt. The more certain we felt we were getting closer. To what? I don't know. None of us knew. And that's why we kept going.
Did you find anything?
No. Well, I don't know. I remember saying something about it getting late, and we should turn back. I don't remember anything after that. Until
If you need to take a moment, that's fine.
I don't remember a fucking thing until sitting on the side of the highway. It was dark out. An officer was asking questions, telling me to stay calm until the ambulance arrived. I was all caught up, screaming about Red, begging the officer to let me go. I had to get away.
Away from what?
The Red!
What was Red?
Interesting.
I don't remember.
What about your friends?
They weren't with me. They think I did it. Won't listen to me. I was high on something. That I was coming down off a bad acid trip. Said I kept screaming at the ambulance, flashing lights, that they were gonna get me. I don't remember that. But Red makes me feel uneasy now.
They mentioned something about it's like teeth being red or something about this being red, so interesting. I wonder if, like, in dark places, it glows that way, or maybe the amnestic did cause him to have some kind of, like, weird, I don't know, psychotic break, and he did kill him. I don't know. I feel like it's not the case because he's all cut up too. I feel like it's a situation, like I said earlier, where, like, maybe part of this organism's, like, hunting thing is, you know, if it bites something but they get away, they're exposed to whatever the amnestic thing is that it creates. It makes them forget about it, and eventually they have a compulsion to go find it somehow, and yeah, they get led back to it, and then it's able to finish the job then. Interesting.
Closing statement. My team is ill-prepared to investigate further. We will be returning in the morning to report our findings. A minimal cover-up should be necessary, depending on what's found, at least for this particular incident. To this end, I suggest Mr. Jones should be strongly implicated in his friend's disappearances. Following his conviction, he could...
Wow, that's fucked up. They want him to get convicted so that they can just take him as a D class. That's fucked up.
Recruited from the prison system as clearance level 0 janitorial staff and transferred to whatever installation can use him.
Agent reported the possibility of an SCP-939 den in the area, and eradication detail was dispatched to investigate. SCP-939 presence was confirmed within and destroyed by February 6, 1992. On February 20th, 1992, Dr. confirmed the sensation of familiarity reported by James was solely attributable to a hitherto undocumented effect of a second exposure to aerosolized AMNC-22-7 following a first exposure of an individual to ECT. This sensation appears to act as a lure in those affected by AMNC-22-7, drawing them toward higher concentrations.
Yeah, this seems like someone's idea of like a very specialized apex predator. The ability to mimic vocalizations of things that it's never seen or heard before, like perfectly. The ability for it to give off birth to mimic other creatures and have other creatures raise its young. The amnestic or whatever, giving people the want to find it, you know? Very fascinating. Very fascinating.
Most
Again, I could really see this turn into some kind of, you know, alien or predator type, you know, sci-fi or horror movie. Very easily.
often centering around dens of SCP-939. Addendum: March 1st, 1992. AMN C-22-7 aided tracking of SCP-939. We can use this.
Yeah.
Anyone
Sure, that is something they can do. They could expose someone to it and use them as a tracking means to find any of these things that could be out in the wild, hunt them down, and destroy their dens.
exposed to a concentration high enough for temporary anterograde amnesia to manifest can stalk them like bloodhounds, if they know how to identify the misplaced sense of familiarity for what it is. Based on agent retracing of the route Mr. J.S. and his friends followed, we know to expect an effective range of kilometers if we use this form of tracking. No, it can't find individual SCP-939, but it can guide us to their dens.
Right. They can guide them to large concentrations of them where they can, you know, they might not be able to find all of them, but they can find larger concentrations of them and wipe them out.
I recommend we brief a number of field operatives on this plan. Any willing would then be exposed to AMNC-22-7 under controlled conditions and dispatched first to the locations of AMNC-22-7 use on civilian populations. Any errant sensation of familiarity experienced by these operatives will be taken as identification of an SCP-939 den nearby and reported as such. Eradication teams will be dispatched to investigate, destroying these dens as they are located. After this has been accomplished, I believe the dispatch of these operatives to major population centers to facilitate their securing, coupled with standard monitoring civilian, military, law enforcement, and channels of information, is the best course of action to locate and exterminate SCP-939 in the wild.
Well,
Dr.
interesting. Very,
Okay.
very fascinating.
I think that about does it for today. Thank you very much for listening, if indeed you still are, and you were all dismissed. Goodbye.
Very interesting video. For the most part, I've kind of given my thoughts on it, and it seems like I was pretty spot on with a lot of my theories and speculations. You know, it seems to be some kind of mimicking apex predator that specializes in hunting its prey by mimicking vocalizations, and has evolved ways to give birth and have their children like physiologically perfectly mimic other species so that they can be raised into those species, and then once they hit like a certain age, they turn back into what they're supposed to, and you know, can hunt and kill and eat those things. And even the idea of the amnestic, like, it's an interesting idea that, you know, you're being hunted by a creature, it attacks you, you get away, but you've been exposed to this amnestic. So then after a certain amount of time, maybe when an adrenaline rush wears off, you forget all about the experience, you kind of get disoriented and wonder where you're at, but then you kind of feel a sensation of needing to be drawn back to it. So even if you get away, potentially, you just walk back to where it is, and it's able to then, you know, kill you and devour you anyway. The biggest questions that I still really have are, you know, what kind of, what's the origin story of these creatures? Or are they just some kind of, you know, actual anomalous predatory life form that is natural to Earth, and, you know, again, it's just some kind of anomaly that because of the amnestics or whatever, that people don't necessarily know about them, or they're, you know, maybe they're considered some kind of, you know, legendary folktale kind of thing, like Bigfoot or something like that, or is this some kind of, they almost seem like they'd be like a bioengineered like creature with the abilities that it has, you know what I mean? It almost seems like some kind of faction would have created them to be used as like I don't know, hunter killer, you know, weapons or whatever. The ability, it also almost sounded like they were able to camouflage themselves pretty well, at least in dark areas. So I don't know, but very fascinating. And I've said it a few times, would definitely be a good sci-fi horror, you know, alien or predator type movie. I could very, very easily see a story being written and based off something similar to this. So very good, very awesome story. That again was SCP-939 with many voices, Object Class Keter Containment Breach Special by the Vulcan. Links will be down below in the description to the original video. Without my commentary and reaction into the Vulcan's channel, please do me the favor of going over there and clicking those links. Excuse me. If you like the original video of his, please give it a like, and if you like the Vulcan's content, please do me the favor of subscribing to him if you haven't already. Makes a lot of great content and definitely deserves the love. I often do these reactions live from our YouTube members. We would love to have you guys come in and join our discussions while we do these live. Always good to see new people come in, hang out, and join in the discussions, give your 2 cents theories, and speculate on things as well. So I'd love to have you guys come in here. If you have any interest in doing so, there is a join button down below the video, as well as in the description. You can check out the YouTube membership tiers. You can get early access to my videos up to a week prior to their release to the public. You can also get priority in any kind of quests you might have for me to do reactions to, etc., etc. So check those out, see if you have any interest yet, and if you decide you want to take your support to me to the next level and help me out monetarily. But regardless of all that, thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy day. Come in, hang out, watch the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you're watching this, and I'll see you on the next one. Take it easy, guys.